Time to clean up my music business with some gig soap.
Take me through the water.
Today we've got my good friend Nick Nave on with us. Very excited to have you on here, Nick. Man, thanks for joining.
Glad to be here. I mean, this is fun. I've been enjoying watching some podcasts and of musicians actually learning about all this stuff. And then you and I talk weekly, and it's kind of a podcast anyway,
Right.
with a few extra people. So,
We just
anyway,
don't let the rest of the world hear it.
that's right. That's right. But still, it's good. It's a conversation, and I like to talk, so that it should be fine.
Right. I figured this one was going
Hit
to
me
be
up and let me know.
this will be super easy.
Yeah,
Alley-oop.
that's right.
Just briefly though, let's give the people that don't know kind of a history of a short history of, what's your connection to music, how involved you are in music and the things that you've done and what you do now. And, you're a full-time musician now. And I want to talk a little bit about how you got to that point,
Okay.
but maybe just a brief history here.
Yeah, so I have really I've been making my living as a musician my entire adult life. A lot of that in the worship ministry world. So as a worship pastor, worship director, and that was that was basically full time for about 30 years, something like that, 28 years. And I haven't been doing that since last December. But all that to say, that's been a part of my journey, that I've been a part of how I've, made my living in music. But, I've been around music my entire life. And in college is when I played in bands in high school, playing keyboard and singing, and choir and all that stuff. Then in college is when I picked up the guitar, started playing in bands in college, and that just kept on going. And that a lot of really original bands, there was actually, when I think about it, there was like maybe 5 different band names, something like that. Some of the same people in each of the bands, all kind of pop rock broadly. It was the kind of music, but a lot of all original really. And then that's morphed now at this phase of my career, doing a lot of solo acoustic covers with some of my original songs mixed in, but making my living playing that kind of music, solo acoustic covers. Also duo with my wife, also a trio and a band with some other that expands out friends. So big menu of options you can get when you book me. And so that's been, and I'm completely full-time contractor. I actually have an LLC. So I'm a solopreneur / entrepreneur / musician, and I absolutely love it. It is by far the best fit of anything for me that I've ever done. So I like being my own boss. I like making my own decisions. I like selling my music to people that want to buy it. I like representing myself. I guess that's the way you would say it.
Yeah.
So that's been super fun. Love that. And all throughout this, by the way, I've worked with you, Chad, for years as my agent and also friend and also, coach, and lots of those different kind of relationships that have just been very fruitful and such a treasure, really. So super excited to be on here with you. So
Yeah, man. Well, and I mean, a lot of people would consider what we do risky, because they don't understand it. They don't understand the business side. But you obviously, just by looking at your background, you're not living in a shack, off a Troost, right? You're
yes,
you're actually doing all right. In fact, you're doing very well.
yes.
And so I know you've applied some principles to make that happen. Yeah, before that, let's talk a little bit, because we started talking really a lot during COVID. When we started meeting, it was just you and I in the beginning. What's turned into this mastermind was just you and I.
That's right.
And we were preparing for what was to come. Do you remember some of the things you did to prep for, how to launch where you're at now coming out of COVID?
Well, I will say one thing that I did approach wise was if 2020 shut a lot of people down. I'm not saying it didn't. It like activated me. So I didn't shut anything down. I actually saw opportunity. This is a way that, this is a way to see the world. This is certainly the way I see the world. But I saw it as opportunity. So I actually got super aggressive, and that's when I really started booking a lot, was during that time, which maybe sounds weird to people watching this, or counterintuitive, or maybe based on their experiences, that didn't seem like that was even happening. But I never saw anything slow down really ever. In fact, I saw it speed up for me personally, because there were pockets of places to play. There were places getting a lot of stimulus money, just to be frank, from the government, and they were ready to spend it on things like live music. And a lot of that has just continued on from that time slot. So the breaking of all the systems that that happened right at that very moment allowed me to jump into places that maybe wouldn't have been open otherwise, because people had their networks and they had their gigs and they did their things and they did it this way, and nobody changed anything. This was really, that is actually, when you think about it, that's actually the reason why this has worked for me in this season, was that jumping in at that kind of pregnant moment.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think when you hear like the super wise investors out there that always talk about, the time to invest is when the market's down.
Right.
And that's when you doubled down on your career, was then.
Yeah, and as I think back, there's a lot of there were a lot of outdoor gigs. I mean, so this wasn't like go and do, breathe in people's faces or something like nonstop. It was just like a lot of opportunity in Kansas City, a lot of outdoor gigs, because there are a lot of places that could only or would only feel comfortable having outdoor things. I think of specifically at one place in Overland Park that since has closed, but man, he hired me twice a week, basically, not very much money, but really like easy, a gig that I could just work my chops and work up songs. And the expectation was, we need to have something to get people to sit outside. That's really what it was.
Right.
And so I got that gig because I was willing to do it. And that changed, even that one gig really changed my life on the solo acoustic thing. So as an example.
Well, and you also mentioned mindset in the very beginning of this. What's one thing that, I know was a huge thing for me to focus on, and nothing got better in my life till I focused on that. And I've got to witness an incredible shift in your situation too, as well. Not that you had a bad mindset what you got. It wasn't that. It was just, maybe talk a little bit about what you've done to take it to the next level just with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a relentlessness that I have inside of me, that is, I would say in an organization it can be kind of abrasive, but as a solopreneur type of person, it works very well. And there's the word that has been really resonating for me recently is the word sharpen, this is just sharpening the approach, sharpening anything and everything that can be sharpened. So, and I attribute a lot of that to you. I don't know that you said that word, but this is, there's a lot of things that don't matter. If XYZ people are getting XYZ gigs and they post about it on social media, that is not what I'm competing against. I'm competing against myself, the best, the most productive version of myself, the most regulated version of myself is one way you could say it. That's what I'm competing against. So there's a lot of, that's really been I think the best one thing that I've been having, because the music is one thing. I like music. I'm good at it. I've learned to get good at it through coaching and through just doing it a lot of reps. But it's all the other stuff, and it's creativity, art, music, our emotional emotionally charged things, they tend to draw emotionally charged people, and which I'm one. So getting that regulated and focused and sharpened right towards what the actual goal is, and the goal is to make the most money possible playing music. So the job itself, music playing, that's fun. That's not working. It's like all the other stuff is working,
Right.
and getting yourself disciplined to do all that.
So what are some of the things that you've done to sharpen? I mean, what are or tools or whatever you can connect that to?
Yeah. I think relationships, stewarding relationships, instead of, so when I was younger, maybe the bands I was in would have been more like, and this is actually a really good approach, so don't hear this, especially for younger people, but we're going to give you what you need. Like, we, the band, are going to give you the songs and the attitude and branding that you need. We're going to make a thing that nobody's ever made before, and it's going to blow you away. That was the attitude back in the day, which is a good attitude to start with. And now it's like a completely inverse thing. Not that I don't play songs I don't like. I'm just saying everything's a relationship. So the bar owners or restaurant owners, the winery owners, I play a lot of country clubs, those managers and owners and the members, all of those things are stewarding. Those has been the key to success, without a doubt. And it has unlocked opportunities I would have never thought possible in a place like Kansas City, which is to be busier than I can even be. So demand has outweighed supply, basically, in the current place. So relationships, turning those things into relationships has been good. Specifically sharpening my branding and my music choice, my playlist. That stuff is through reps. That's not through magic. It's like, play this song because I think it's cool. Play it 5 times. Nobody likes it. Dump it. Like, don't play it again. It's not, I don't care that might be my favorite song of all time. If you're not responding and it's not getting anything happening, that's a sharpening. It just cut that sucker off, man.
How have you sharpened your ability to develop relationships?
I think slowing down, ironically, I have an aggressive personality, but slowing down, using gratitude. So, I literally thank every single person that ever hires me with a follow-up text or email or phone call every single time. And these are not long. I don't use Chat GPT to come up with like 5 pages of gratitude. It's just a thing. That's one super simple way. I promote the places. I use social media, which is free, to promote the places that I play. We talk about this a lot on our calls, but I just keep it positive and broadly. I keep the communication broadly positive at all times. So when somebody hires me, they're not going to get me the next day on Facebook ranting and raving about something. Maybe something didn't go well, but I just don't do that. I might do it to you or to my wife. I don't do that. So some of that kind of stuff. And so the relationships have actually become the fun part of it. The relationships with some of the clubs and places we play, man, I just love all these people. I love the staff, and they become, I'm not saying like family, but they become treasured coworkers, even though I'm just a contract musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed every time that you are consistently doing every time you do a show is you're edifying the people that that you should edify while you're there. You're edifying the bar staff. You're edifying anybody that's got anything to do with what's going on. At some point in that night, you're going to say something edifying and complimenting them and for who they are, what they're doing. And it's always, and you do it in a very authentic way, which is, I think, a big part of it too. It's not like you're brown nosing, right? It doesn't ever come out like that. You want to talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, and you've mentioned this before, but I think my years as a worship leader, leading worship, meaning standing in front of a large congregation and leading a band and using words to really to bridge from one section to another, from music to preaching, broadly speaking, stuff like that. Music to announcements to preaching,
Mm-hmm.
even doing the announcements. I think that's where this has all been birthed from. But outside of that realm, I use the same connecting principles to connect between songs or between moments. And I want people to come to have a great experience and enjoy the music. And the best way I know how to do that is to edify and lift up and encourage
Mm-hmm.
and practice gratitude. And just connecting dots, kind of within, during the gig and within the gig and during the breaks. And actually, really specifically, Chad, one of the things we used to talk about right when we started our Zoom group was taking your breaks. So if you're a musician, you're taking a break or two per gig. Taking your breaks, not, and sometimes it's stressful. You got to go disappear for a minute. So that's not every time, but getting out and meeting people and chatting and connecting with the bartender, you could kind of call it sales 101, but really it's just putting yourself out there, letting people know you see them and you're hearing what they have to say to you. I have a microphone in front of my face for 3 hours. I can say whatever I want, and they're forced to listen to me. But when you can give that back, the listening to them,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned that from you tremendously. It's just a whole different ball game, and the stress just goes away. And if you play a few muffed notes, it's not a big deal. And it's just completely different. And people really connect and feel like they're your brother, sister, friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it is a discipline. So even the most extroverted person has to work that muscle. It's not like, it's a discipline. And these are you see some of the same people, you work relationships that last for years and years and years. So it is, those are some of the things I do.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned just a little bit ago, some of the things that you don't do too. I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot. What, people that rant, musicians that rant on social media. I mean, especially in the politics area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times have we seen that? And it pains me because I know what it's doing to their career.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even matter what side they're on. Just the fact that they are picking a side and going all in on that side is
Yeah.
just destroys, a big part of their market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I even think, unless you're literally writing political jingles, basically.
Like if you're Green Day.
I mean, other than that, not much of it probably helps.
Yeah.
People can feel a passion and feel so passionate that they just can't help themselves.
Yeah.
That's fine. But as it relates to getting gigs or playing music or connecting with a broader group of people, I don't think it helps very much, and it probably hurts. You could say, "Hey, you see a lot of this in branding stuff. Get really specific, get really provocative.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that, and that is a way to really get your niche. You
Yeah.
know, let's say I was into politics, conservative politics, and I go hardcore with everything I post is all of a sudden just all this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm using X to do it primarily. That is a way to build a brand. It's not a wrong way to build a brand, but this kind of world that we live in, I'm a local musician in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly regional, but mostly just local. That's not really a political job.
Right.
So
Yeah.
using free advertising to hammer people on politics, to me, doesn't benefit my political views nor my business views or business output. And even aside from politics, it can just be a grouchy spirit that complains
Mm-hmm.
about everything. And I don't, I mean, that stuff just gets old really quick in terms of, I have my own world and my own friends and family, so I can say what I want there. But I'm just talking about using social media and
Yeah.
email lists to build a business, is, music and entertainment. People feel free to speak about politics and feel free to offer their advice. So, that is a thing that musicians do. You see it
Yeah.
all the time, and you can understand why people go, well, that's what that guy does, so I'm going to do that too.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen goes and rants in London, so I'm going to take my time and do that exact thing because he's my hero. So you can see why they would do it, but I'm not sure on a local to regional level that it helps very much.
Right.
uh,
Yeah. I mean, if you've made all the money in the world, you have a little more freedom to
Yeah.
make those calls. But I think what you're talking about and what you've done, like specifically within your coastal, your coastal, say it again, coastal country.
Well, I've been working this kind of muscle on laid back coastal rock and
Yeah.
country.
Yep.
This is borrowing from the Kenny Chesney,
Right.
Jimmy Buffett playbook a little bit. It's not really all the same songs, but kind of that niche just came about pretty naturally. It's really who we are as people, so we went there.
Yeah. Because I mean, your vacations all involve water.
Yeah.
Everyone I know you go to there's water.
yeah.
It's either Table Rock or it's Florida or something.
Yeah.
So it was a natural thing, but it was also even though you've taken your time, it was a deliberate move for you. It wasn't a move that you just kind of said, I'm just going to throw this out there and do this. Is actually fairly deliberate, correctly? Is that correct?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
deliberate in a way that we've talked a lot about this too, getting a hook, not a gimmick, but a something for people to put a hook on. If you're like, I just play every song ever written,
Right.
what do you want to hear? That's maybe not a great hook. But if you say, I play laid back coastal rock and country, well, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's kind of music for the beach, music for the lake, music for the fire pit. Oh, well, really, that's interesting. Tell me more. Which we've talked about. You're drawing them in
Yeah.
to this hook, which the hook is true, but I don't live on a lake and I don't live at the beach. So, but the branding and the hook has been, it was specific to find a way to delineate, because there's a lot of people that play solo acoustic gigs. And as a aside, I mean, I found somebody else's set list at a winery the other day, some other band, I don't even know whose it was, and it's like every song's the same as the songs I play. So a lot of the songs we all play a lot of the same songs, is my point. So getting a hook to some degree can really help with that, and I think it's helped me a lot. Even internally, it's helped a lot, to be to just have a slightly different perspective, has helped me a lot. And you start doing these gigs that are kind of outdoor country club gigs, then you start kind of going, you kind of tie in that you love being outdoors and that you think it's good for people to be outdoors. You kind of, you just, you know what I'm saying? It just evolves and grows without you going, I am a coastal rock and country musician. I start right now and that's what I do from now on. I didn't do that. It just morphed, and then you just keep sharpening it.
Yeah. You also mentioned, I think this would be powerful to talk about a little bit more, is building connections with your audience so that they have an experience or a moment. Use the word moment. I think, when we finally realize that our whole job is creating moments for people, then the job actually gets easier. So what have you done to make, to move into that or lean into that?
Yeah. Well, so I'll think of one. I'll think of one really just example where I just morphed, or I just latched on to something that was already happening. I'll say 2 days ago, we did a Father's Day event, and at winery, Bourquin Winery, and they had, the event was already powerful. I mean, Father's Day can be emotional, a charged day. There's lots of people out with their dads and out celebrating already at a place that where the moments I mean, the whole thing was a moment. You know, whatever note we even, whatever songs we ever even played, the whole thing was a moment. So that's one thing you can do, is just be a part of things you're proud to be a part of. You know, if you, you know, we trend family friendly, we trend positive. So that helps. Leaning into all of that helps the moments to be made anyway, by not bringing my positive energy to like a really dark, you know, bar at 3 a.m, which, you know, you have to do that sometimes as a musician, but
Especially starting out.
yeah. And then specifically, creating, you know, taking songs and tying them together with stories. You know, some of this is a little scripted, but bringing that kind of energy, instead of just ripping songs just one after another and not saying a word, bringing humanity in between most songs and into a lot of what you're doing. And that stuff does not have to be hokey. It can be very powerful, even if you kind of say some of the same lines over and over again. I mean, at different venues, not in the same show, but that stuff's been helpful. And you know, taking requests can make moments. I mean, this yesterday or 2 days ago at Father's Day, a guy was there with his fiance, meeting some other friends for the first time. They came from out of town, and he requested a song or two that she loved, like his fiance. You know, one of them I really didn't know, but I really invented a chord progression for it. I mean, it kind of knew like sort of the line. But my point is, I gave it my try. It made his moment with his fiance and his friends and family, made it really a totally powerful moment for them. You could see it on their faces. So that's me, and that's me doing something that, you know, not everybody wants to do that, because, you know, I did kind of fall.
It's vulnerable for sure.
Yes. You know, the song was Bad Mama Jamma, by the way, which is not really in my usual repertoire, but nevertheless, I figured it out. So
Yeah.
that is one way. And moments, you got to also have an eye and a heart for moments too. So that's another thing, is getting good enough at your craft. We've talked about this so much, that this is a second nature. So your songs, you know, my regular set list is pretty much second nature. I add and subtract here and there, but a lot of it is second nature. So I can use, my brain is all available to see these moments and help make them a little bit, help lean into them, because I'm practiced at my music. And it's not that hard to play the songs anymore.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we won't get into numbers here, but I know that I've witnessed you doubling, then tripling, then quadrupling your rate. You know, and my belief is that the more value you create, the more people are willing to pay for it, and I think that's what you've witnessed, isn't it?
Yes, you know, there's funny stuff about that, because really the base rate for musicians, I was reading something that was like, union musicians in Kansas City in like, I might be botching this, but like in like the 40s or something, were like making the same like base rate that they make now in Kansas City. They're not union anymore, but literally, like, so like a lot of the base rate has not increased at all, like the entry level pay for a musician. But that being said, then there's a lot of variations on top of that, as you do different kinds of events, corporate and private, weddings, etc. And you do have to price. I learned this from you. You have to price high enough to get told no, you know, and be okay with that. That's a business principle. I'm not saying I'm more valuable than another musician per se. I'm saying I'm bringing high value. I do value what I bring. It's worth this for you to have me at your event. There's a confidence, not an arrogance.
Right.
And then you leave it on the table. and you lose gigs. I have lost some gigs over the years because I'm expensive, so to speak, in some contexts.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm not. I
Yeah.
haven't lost anything. I've gained a lot more
Yeah.
over through using that strategy. And also, if you can price yourself high, then you train clients to pay a lot for music. Not a lot, to pay like livable wages
Give
for
it value.
yes, and then
Yeah.
all the other musicians can lean into that too.
Mm-hmm.
It really does bring up the overall pricing in your market, which is so helpful because if everyone's like, "I'll just play for whatever you give me,"
Yeah.
then you can't make a living out of it. It's completely a hobby for everyone if you
Yeah.
cannot make good money on it.
Yeah, I know I've shared this with you, but there was a gig I lost one time because I was about half of what the guy thought we should be charging. I quoted him a rate,
He's like,
and I mean, and the call up to that point was, this is in the bag.
yeah, yeah,
This guy is very excited.
yes,
He's all in, and then I gave him the price, and I could hear the color drain out of his face. He's like, "Oh, I thought you would have been twice that," and then
yeah.
like the call just ended.
Isn't that crazy? Well, so that's what we're presuming that every single person booking us, that they're going for bargain basement.
Yeah.
No matter what. I'm always that's what I always think is, oh man, I better not say too high because they won't hire me. And the bottom line is, I've had that happen to me too. I've had people say yes to an amount and almost like laugh. Like I just got you so good because I would have paid you 3 times what you quoted me.
Yeah.
Is really that's like the exact vibe of these conversations. And so we have talked about this, but you just get this kind of ceiling that is kind of the ceiling for most types of gigs. And you just kind of bump up on that ceiling with your quotes.
Yeah. Self-imposed ceiling.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But you just kind of bump up though, and then you bump, and then
Yeah.
so far that's worked out well.
You mean you're saying that you every time you hit it, you kind of push against it?
You try, yeah, and you try to push it
Yeah.
and just bump it, bump that 50 more bucks or whatever, or maybe, I couldn't right now just double my rates, but there is a number that I would like to get to for every appearance.
Right.
Not some regular gigs, bars, etc. Their budgets, that's not ever going to happen. So you do have to kind of accept that kind of structure
Yeah.
to keep your kind of public gigs out there. But for all the other ones, private, corporate, weddings, house parties, really it's about trying to bump that up. That's money they're probably going to spend on something else anyway.
Right.
Catering or whatever. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's the event world people are ready to spend money on that kind of stuff.
And I mean, if we're talking about event planners, a lot of times they're given a budget, and if they have to spend that, or they're going to have their budget decrease next year if it's like a reoccurring event.
Yeah.
So if you come in too low for the entertainment side of things, they're like, well, shoot, I'm not going to spend the budget because they're paid on commission a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you're dipping in their commission by underpricing.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And still yet I can quote what to me is not even a high amount. You just have to run this risk, and you get someone laughing at you on the other end of things, being
Right.
like, are you kidding me? You're going to charge me that much to play music? I mean, my cousin will do it for $5 and,
Yeah.
and a plate of chicken tenders, and, that's ridiculous. I've gotten literally that line back at me. It's
Yeah.
like, that's exorbitant and that's ridiculous. So, I mean, but you call a plumber, our example is always like, you call a plumber, they charge you what they charge, and they all charge the same basically. And you don't say, that's ridiculous. I mean, I guess some people say that, but I'm going to fix it myself, which is fine. But contractors do charge what they charge across the board,
Well, I appreciate what you're doing in helping, just first of all being here, but then also just being willing to just push the envelope on that, because I think overall, as artists, we need examples of how things can do it better. I just listened to the new Oliver Anthony podcast on Rogan, and that dude is resetting the market, and it's a great interview. And now he's like got a vision of helping other artists do the same, because he's proven that you can do things differently without the corporate structure and all those things with original music. And it's fantastic to watch it happen. And it's inspiring to me to see, on that level, with a song released with a cell phone recording that made $800,000 first check.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so there still is a path there,
No.
But Nick, man, this has been awesome. Is there, a lot of times I'll ask people what they would advice they'd give a brand new musician, but I think I'd rather ask you something different.
Okay.
What advice would you give somebody that's been doing music for, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years, and they just feel stuck in the same spot?
That's a good question. To me, your mindset is everything. So it's not so much the songs you're playing. It's not so much the venue you're playing at. It is your mindset. And if your mindset can change, then I think the output changes ultimately. There's a lot of different ways to make money playing music. There's a lot of different kinds of songs to play. I wouldn't judge anybody playing any kind of song to make money playing music, but you can't, if you're in a grind and you don't feel like you're breaking through. I do think that you can change your mindset to see this thing as an abundance, practice gratitude, to get connected relationally with your clients. And I do think it changes how you even see what the job is, or what the output is. So I mean, that maybe is not super specific, but I think that's the best way.
Yeah.
Because you can get, I would also say, try playing at different things. You've talked about this before, Chad. There's a lot of different ways to get, like go to small towns. If you live in a big city, we live in Kansas City, go to small towns, go an hour circumference around Kansas City, and go to their Facebook pages and go to their websites and start trying to get gigs, because you're going to find a completely different crowd who's probably very hungry for live music, most likely, with a probably fine pay structure, and it'll change everything. It'll change everything. If you're not going, I got to get this gig that all these cool guys have, this one gig, and I just can't get it, and I feel stuck. You just let your imagination run wild, because there is live music, at least in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's true in other cities too, but there is live music everywhere, everywhere. And a lot of times they can't even fill the slots that they have budgeted,
Right.
Because there's so much hunger for live entertainment. So use that, flip your mindset, pick another kind of gig to try to get. Marinas have music. They literally, all the marinas at all the lakes around here have live music. So that could be fun. Try something different. Don't just go, I got to go to the coolest club, Mahomes and Kelsey's Steakhouse. Let's say they have, I don't know if they have live music, but I got to have it, or else my career's, in shambles. Yeah. Just use your imagination.
Dude, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. This was so much good stuff.
Definitely. Thank you, Chad.
All right, guys.
See ya.
Nick Nave. Time to clean up my music business with some gig soap.
Take me